the Cannes Film Festival and making time to come to the press conference, but we'll certainly make it worth your while. The press conference will follow the usual format in that I will make introductions, ask a couple of questions, and then throw it open to you to take over from there. And we have an extremely exciting announcement to make. So, let me introduce our panel. It's a wonderful lineup. I'm honoured to be in the company of these amazing women. And they are, from the end, the founder of We Do It Together, Chiara Talesi. Director Katia Lund. Actress Frida Pinto. The actress Julia Binoche. The director Patricia Ribbon. And producer Carol Polikoff. And I'm Emma Jones, and I'm your moderator. You don't have to applaud me. Okay, so if you were a member of the media and you follow the newspapers and TV and online generally, you will know the situation in Hollywood, and we don't want to go too much into that, but the statistics by the Gina Davis Institute from 2014 did state that in Hollywood, female directors are outnumbered by male directors by 9 to 1. 1 in 5 films made in Hollywood have sole female protagonists. The situation hasn't changed since 1946, and if we continue at the current rate of change, it will take 700 years to achieve parity within the film industry. Now, I don't even want it to take 7 months. You know? So they are the statistics. What is wonderful about We Do It Together is firstly that it involves both men and women working within the film industry, working together to change the situation. It's also a non-profit organisation, and what is quite remarkable, in the 3 months since it was instigated, here we are in Cannes with our first major announcement, which is wonderful, but also many of you who follow social media will have seen ATTN's video starring some of the women present here today, talking about stereotyping within the media. And I'm pleased to say that in 4 days since that video's gone up, it's had 2,180,000 views and over 20,000 shares on Facebook. Clearly, there's something to discuss here. And now I'd like to hand over to the founder of We Do It Together, Chiara Talesi, who has a very exciting announcement to make. Over to you, Chiara.
First of all, on behalf of our amazing board of directors and advisory board, I would like to thank you, all of you, for coming here today and supporting us. We're here today thanks to our wonderful sponsors who share our dream. Pierre Andurand and Ingenier, DDA, JJDC, National Bank of Canada, Plage Royale, Claude Hugo and Renault. Also, I would like to thank Jonathan Huguet for his support. And I would like to thank the amazing collaboration with the Caring Group and our associate producer, Rise Up and Care. I would like to announce our new amazing advisory board members: Robin Wright, Jodie Foster, Diane Warren, Valeria Golino, Victoria Alonso, Carrie Selling, Leonor Varela, Lucas Akoskin, Cameron Mitchell, Paula Vaccaro, Orly Ravid. With the new addition, I think we are only 50 of us. I have the big news I would like to share with you, the announcement of our first film entitled Together Now. It is a feature film comprised of 7 segments, each one directed by a truly superb female filmmaker and featuring some of the most talented actresses, some of which are here today. The film will tell stories of female empowerment. Each segment is going to be shot in a different country with a different style. The producer of the film are Carol Polikoff, Shelby Stone, and myself. Together Now is the first step on the journey of our organization. If we dream it together, we certainly do it together. Now back to our wonderful moderator, who will tell us who are the directors and actors of our first movies.
This is really exciting for me to let you know about, actually. So the directors of the different segments confirmed so far: Golden Globe winner Robin Wright, Catherine Hardwicke, Katya Lund, who's here today of course, Patricia Riggin, who also joins us, Haifa Al-Mansour, Malgorzata Zumowska, Melina Matsoukas, and starring in it, Frida Pinto and Juliette Binoche, and other names, of course, will be announced. So that is a truly, truly impressive lineup. It's fantastic. In fact, Robin Wright's very sorry not to be here, as are the others, of course. They are shooting on projects at the moment. Robin Wright did give us a statement, actually, so I will just read that out in case you'd want that for the press. And Robin Wright says, "I'm honoured to join We Do It Together as they build a platform for women to create and share stories. The amount of knowledge and ideas are endless. I'm thrilled to witness this movement and watch them bring their goals into fruition. It is with great pleasure to announce I'll be collaborating with We Do It Together on my own short subject that I'm deeply passionate about. I look forward to making a mark for women in film." Well, I think it's time to start the questions, and if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen, I will kick it off, really. Well, Katya and Frida, I believe that you two are going to be working together on a segment. What are you able to tell us about it so far? And your microphones are on, so please do. Yeah.
Well, Frida and I have been working together on another project for a while, and we're very excited to be able to work together soon on Together Now, this short segment. We still don't know what the story is going to be. We're sure it's going to be fascinating though, right, Frida? It's probably going to be shot either in India or Brazil, where I'm from. But we don't know much about it right now. We're just thinking about ideas still.
So yeah, like Katya said, she and I have been working together for 5 years, right now, since 4 years. You're not counting, you stopped counting. I've been counting. Since I think 2011, we've been working on this one project, which there will come a day sooner than later when we will announce it. And when this idea was born out of a kind of frustration, but not a frustration where you give up, but a frustration that motivates you to go out there and find a solution. And Katya was discussing this thing that we're going through, where we have this wonderful story, and every time we tell this wonderful story to a potential investor or a producer, the first thing they go is, "Oh my God, it is so amazing." And then we go, "Okay, what about the paycheck?" I'm sorry, not the paycheck, but the check to get the film made, and the paycheck, excuse me. And immediately they go, is it going to be in English? Okay, sorry, I just told you the story about a woman who doesn't speak a lick of English. It doesn't matter, her story is still beautiful. Fine, the next question is, will there be a white man in the film who speaks in English then? No, sorry, she's pretty much been fighting her battle by herself for the last God knows how many years, and there is no white knight in shining armor. And that's when we realized, you know what, we've got to take this matter in our own hands. We're not going to be able to go down a conventional route to tell the story of an unconventional woman. And Katya and Kiara were discussing this, and there was born the idea of a non-profit model, where we go out there and we tell these stories that we've all been dying to tell, but always face some kind of a roadblock. But this model is even better because we're not just out here to make money, which is great. Who doesn't want to make a little bit of money on the side, right? But we're out here to make sure that the future stories that are told don't face the same kind of roadblocks. So the proceeds and whatever we make from these various projects that we go out with, the profits go right back into the film fund to fund the next bunch of great stories. And I feel like if I do a film project and I produce something or act in something, I want it to be born out of this film fund to prove it to as many people who do not know how to make it. And not to shame them, but just to show them that there is an alternative method. That's our story.
Juliet, you're also going to be starring in a segment as well. Why did you want to get involved in this?
Yes, Marianne Slot, who's a producer in French, she's a Danish, and she's asked to be part. Małgorzata Szymowska, who I did a film with, she's a Polish director, and so we're going to do another segment, part of this film, and we're looking forward to start. I think it's going to happen this year, and so we don't know exactly what it's going to be like, but I think I'm going to be into the politics somewhere, no, I'm really wonderfully surprised by your initiative. I think it's beautiful. I think to invest money back into another film is really revolutionary, and it's not against, the movement is not against men at all. It's for the feminine to be heard more into the world, that we need it, we're conscious of it. And in my own story, I have to say that unconsciously I resisted, staying in Europe and not moving to America, and the Hollywood system was a way to resist the roles that were very narrow-minded, I felt, without having a rational idea about it, but just staying into a place where we can talk about the feminine issues. And I've been very lucky, in my own world, creating those films and initiating them as well. You're going to see, directors and producers as well, to create those roles, so we can talk about the women, the feminine that we need. Because in all of us, there's those two poles, feminine and masculine. And the planet seems, the human, seem to go more into the masculine world. And I think there's equilibrium that is happening, and we need to go into a feminine side. So I think this initiative is beautiful, and that's why I'm here. And
you made miracles from heaven. You must be chased after by so many studios right now, but you've decided this is the next project for you. Why is that?
Hi. It's awesome to see so many people here. I've been talking about discrimination against women in the film industry for many years, since I started my career 10 years ago. I've been, discrimination in the film industry happens, behind the camera and in front of the camera, in the misrepresentation of, female characters, but also in the very, very few female directors that get the chance to express their points of view. We're talking about around 5%. It varies a little bit up and down, but basically for every 100 people that direct, 5 are women and 95 are men. So, I've been making movies since I started my career. I have 5 features now. I've made a movie every basically 2 years. So it's a huge achievement even for a man. I am one of the very, very lucky, fortunate female directors that is steadily working and also working within the studio system in Hollywood. And that's why I feel a huge responsibility to be here and to speak for the other 95% women that are not working. And for years, I always thought, is this a subjective point of view? Is this the opinion of, some disgruntled women that are not, getting jobs because they're not talented? But I'm part of the DGA, and the DGA started to publish a very interesting statistic, in their monthly magazine once a year. They basically count the amount of women that are hired in the television industry versus men. And they publish it, as a pie, and on the front page. I always keep that in my little drawer. and it came down to 8%, right? So for several years, the excuses have been, women don't have the experience. So, of course, it's just natural that we would hire men before women. So the DGA went on and started counting the hiring practices of first-time directors in the industry. So basically, first-time directors, first time out of school, or maybe they're a former writer or a production designer or something that gets given their first chance to direct something. And what came out was exactly the same number, 8%. So for every 100 new directors, only 8 women get hired and the other 92 men. So that's when it became really, really clear to me that the discrimination is happening and that we need to stop. So when Chiara approached me with this initiative, I was, for me, music to my ears, to be part of, a movement where I can express my ideas, and I know that a lot of people around me have the same exact idea. So I'm just excited to be part of it. We're gonna make the change, and it needs to be a change that really prevails. It should not be the fashion of this year. We're just gonna change it and keep it like that.
Carol, as a producer extraordinaire, I think you know all about the decision-making process in Hollywood and also the positive alternative that you want to offer with We Do It Together.
We intend to put action in front of words, and that is something that was so utterly exciting for me when Chiara approached me and us with this idea. It has become, as you probably know, in the last maybe 2 years, almost chic to talk about this subject. There have been panels which are wonderful, there have been studies, but this was the first way forward that I saw that said we're actually going to literally do something about it. Taking the process into our own hands and democratizing the way that movies are financed and stories are put forward was nothing less than revolutionary. It's changing a paradigm, which is really the goal of this organization. We hope in many, many years, it probably will take that we won't have the need for it, and that we're going to have parity. We don't want more, but we certainly don't want less. It's illogical. Everybody agrees. But most importantly, we're not here to take down the studio system. Why? It's a fool's errand. It works very well for them. Why would they do that? If there's affirmative action, which we all know, and we won't get into a long discussion about, in terms of insisting that there are 52% women in any given job or on any given film, I don't think that's the answer. You cannot impose this. What you have to do is create a new model and something that works so that people can't talk about what doesn't work, so that women are in fact able to get ideas through that do not depend on prints and advertising, marketing, pre-sales, or having, as we said, a male protagonist that would help sell the film before it's even conceived, written, rewritten, made, and put into release. So we're taking the power back. We feel like the only way to do that is by what is going to be a committee of people, which is not going to act like a traditional studio system. This nonprofit, the reinvestment of our funds back into this system is nothing less than revolutionary and world-changing. And we hope that we're going to have, and we have a lot of wonderful partners, we have an enormous amount of support. And just by today's attendance and our wonderful sponsors, we're off to a fantastic start. And we intend to make this film this year, and hopefully by next time this year, you will see it.
Chiara, we're not forgetting about you at the end, the most important person down there. What were the problems that you saw that led you to setting up We Do It Together?
Well, I think...
Oh, is that not working? It should be on my mic.
They didn't want me to talk, you see. I think that both Patricia and Carol covered that very well. There are two main problems, as we all know. One is women behind the camera, and one is women in front of the camera. It happens to be that these two problems fit each other. Why? Because first of all, if we think that culture is made by the repetition of an image of a concept, we as filmmakers, we're very responsible of whatever movies or media content we create, because we create a culture, right? Besides entertaining and telling beautiful story. But when we tell a beautiful story, we are also creating culture. So at the end of the day, the character of a woman, it's always the same. Now, you're going to laugh, but as women, we're only represented in the United States around 13% in the movies, and our characters are always related to who we sleep with, so our men. And we tend to be much younger, and between 20 to 30, and we're wife, girlfriend, or mother usually is the victim. So I think that the strength of a society lies in its diversity. We want to tell more story with more, complex character. But who is writing the story? Who is directing the story? The point of view is always a male point of view. So I feel that, the two problems fit each other, behind and in front of the camera. So I think if we just have to create more opportunity. So one side of the stories are really well told and is taken care of. This other side needs to be taken care of because we want to watch these movies. Because when I watch them, movies that empowers me, that entertain me, like even, Joy or Erin Brockovich, when I watch those movies, I feel empowered, I feel entertained, and I think men too loves those type of stories. So this is not about men and women, this is really about evolving all of us together and enjoying this all of us together. It makes no sense that, we are part of this planet as well. We represent 52% of the population and we're just the girlfriend. I think we can do more than that, So we are the biggest minority, believe it or not. We have that, we got that award of being 52% of the population. So, hey, we want to tell our story too, and I think you guys will enjoy it as well. Thank you. Thank you.
I think what's exciting as a journalist is knowing that equal numbers of men in Hollywood are behind We Do It Together as well. And it's, everyone working together, which is wonderful. The film is called Together Now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, we'd love to hear it. Madam in the front.
Hi, I'm with the Hollywood.
I can go around.
I'm with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and we've just started an initiative to focus on women behind the camera. So we're interviewing everyone who doesn't appear in front and how they contribute just to showcase it. And I want to ask you two questions. Dame Pepper Harris mentioned that one of the ways to empower women is to hire them at entry levels so that they can ultimately become the DP, etc. So what are you guys doing about that? And then the second question is Lisa Johnson, who just did Elvis Nixon, said that the discrimination that she faces and women face isn't like a Lex Luthor character, but it's unbiased discrimination, where you go in and present something and they will say to you, a man didn't do as good a job, but we trust him, he makes us feel comfortable. So can you address those two issues, please?
Here's your question too. Who wants to answer it?
Me as well. It is on. Listen, I think that if we do our job, then people are going to be inspired to want to be filmmakers and want to be storytellers when they see it's not a dead end and it's not futile. I think that the idea here is to create almost an ecosystem of filmmaking that will be as open a door to people to be able to tell their story. It may not cost a lot of money, but you want people to see it. Thanks to VOD and thanks to the digital world now, it has democratized, as I was talking before, the process where people can get their work out. But most importantly, the nonprofit studio idea, which we were talking about, takes so much of the onus off of having the financing run the picture, and it will make we're hoping that our stories all over the world, and by the way, we want to stress that this is really not a U.S. based. We're in the U.S., we're all over the world, we intend to be all over the world. That when people can see these stories, whether it's online on their phones or on the screen, that they'll be encouraged enough to say that I can come up with an idea and find these people who will then be able to talk about a meritocracy and about a good piece of work rather than a piece of work that will just sell.
But what about
Part of your
level positions for women?
It's what I did when I was a photographer, and then I decided, well, I wanted to tell stories. I was very lucky in the sense that I had the drive, I had an enormously lucky life. I mean, there are a lot of people who don't even think it's possible to get into this industry because women are so marginalized. And I think if we start changing the ideas behind it, we can change the ideas in front of it.
Thank you. Anyone else with a question?
Good morning.
Answer.
Oh, Patricia, sorry.
I'm
I
an
was just going
Italian
to say something
filmmaker.
very quickly.
Yes.
Which has to do with answering your question. You know, I'm a little older than I look, and I started a little older than I should have. And I think that happened because I never saw a woman director. So it never occurred to me that I could be a woman director, that I could be a director. I was a writer, I was a producer, I was unhappy because I hadn't found my true calling, but I had no idea that you could be one. So for me, also part of the responsibility of being here and making movies as a woman is for all these other young women to see us. Because when they see you, they know they can do the same. So it's also just exposing ourselves around the world.
I want to I'm an Italian filmmaker, and me too, I have to struggle, of course. In Italy, I think it's 3% the percentage of women filmmakers. I have to struggle because my film are even a little disturbing, are about humanitarian tragedy, about little girls, so I have to produce myself, and me too, I have to especially raise money through donation, because of course the official business doesn't want to read script about children prostitution or little girls forced married, etc. What is incredible here is not only that you are organizing, our, expression in a more really revolutionary way, but what I want to notice is that each of you is a different nationality. This is really, really, really revolutionary. This is the first time I follow several women organizations, and they're all American, they're all... This is the first time I see mixed nationality, and this gives us so much hope. So I want to thank you from this faraway country, Italy. I'm so proud that one of the founders is Italian. It's really a miracle. And so my question is, do we have hope that we do it together will arrive even in Italy? Thank you.
It started in Italy. We do it together is Italian. Our first board of director meeting was in a pizzeria, Italian pizzeria. It's 100% Italian, and yes, we are answering to your question. It is great the response that we are having, and from different countries, France in particular, and Italy as well. So we are studying collaboration, and hopefully soon we'll be able to announce, a European branch of We Do It Together. It's very important to say that what you underline is true. I think it's an amazing group of people in We Do It Together, because we represent different point of view. We have a lot of men in it as well, which I think is amazing, because I think all together different profession. That's what I think also it's great, because we have, of course, directors, writers, and actors and actresses, but also we have agent, manager, publicist, producer. So all together we decided to try a new model. And so Europe will be next for sure. Let's first do our first movie. Let's make sure one step at a time. The mountain is big, so we're doing one step at a time. But of course, Italy forever.
Any more questions with him? You, sir.
I am Matt Terry. I'm writing for the International Documentary Association and a few other outlets. So I was curious that you plan to do some documentary projects, I understand. Can you give us any insight into what those might potentially be?
Well, right now we are concentrating on our first feature films. There are different proposal of different possibility, but again I think it's one step at a time. So obviously documentary will be next for sure. So I think at the moment we're concentrating on this. Thank you.
There's a lady in blue there with a question.
Hi, I'm Dalina Al-Joudi. I'm a writer and actress from Lebanon. And if it's a bit problematic for you, I cannot even tell you how's the situation for us in the Arab world. So I cannot even wait for the 7 minutes or the 7 months. We're already too late. Let's be practical. If someone has a project written by women that talks about women, and I'm not racist, I don't need to put men aside, but is there a way to start and present something to get your help to be able to make the film easier? If there's a way to present it, where, how do you think it's going to be practically done afterwards, even if it's not now for today? Thank you.
Well, in October, let me tell you a little bit how, I think it's also fascinating the structure of how we choose project. So from October, online on our website, www.wedoittogether.org, you can submit project. The project will have guidelines, okay? So there'll be certain guidelines, and there'll be a committee that will pre-select the project. And then from that committee, we'll go to the board of directors that is made by 8 people. And then the board of directors will vote based upon the guideline. And then we'll go from there. So in October, our committee should be ready. And so please send us your stories.
And of course, the fabulous Sally director, Haifa, is going to be
Yes,
that
that
one
woman
as well.
She has a fantastic story. I'm not going to tell you what it is, obviously, but it's going to be somewhat ironically humorous. I wanted to just say that we're not against having documentary pieces of all kinds of media, but we have to focus very much on this first film, and then we do intend to do mostly dramatic pieces, but then we're certainly going to be open to every kind of artist who wants to come and propose something that would be even very much out of the box. But everything will happen in October. We're getting a lot of inquiries. You can imagine our website is kind of, it gets very busy perhaps after today, and but we had to put a deadline on that so that we can concentrate on the first film.
I'd like to ask Frida and Juliet, of course, this film together now is the first step on a long road, but how important is it really as actors as well to change the stereotyping of characters within the films that you appear in?
Well, it feels to me it's not going to be a huge difference because I've always been fighting for women and the feminine, because I think that's my role. And so it's been always my provoking roles to talk about, what we go through, and which is universal. It's for men and women, because we can bring into women consciousness, but also to men. I mean, as women, we have another energy and another way of doing things, and that's why your idea about producing is very different from the going into the world in a different way. And I believe that. I think that we're coming to a wall somehow. We're in big crisis at the moment. The world is, and the way that women have been treated in the world is beyond the imagination of how we can treat women. And I think that it's necessary to react, to do something, to be active, to take a different power. It's the feminine power is different, and to make consciousness that we know and we can see what's happening in the world. We're not stupid, and taking action is a way of reacting. And movies are very important to our world because it nourishes our unconscious and also our awareness of the world. And that's what we need to do and go forward. But it feels to me that I've been, instinctively been doing that because that's, I was probably raised up like that or born like that. You have fire inside and you want to spread into the world and participate into the world, not being passive and just look and do nothing, but just go into the world and say it. And so we move together, men and women, not only women. That's all.
So my approach to this has been slightly different, but I've been very inspired by actors like Juliet and Kate Blanchett and Kate Winslet. And I'm actually guilty of playing a few stereotypical roles when I started off, and I had to learn from it. So when I think the common notion that most young female actors have when they get their first big break, or they're trying to get their first big break, is that, oh my God, this has been presented to me, so stereotypical or not, I better do it, because if I don't do it, there'll be nothing else. And we fall prey to this fear that there will be nothing else, and quite often there is actually nothing else, and you have to really go out there and fish for it and make it happen. But having done the few stereotypical roles and having the same kind of fire in my belly as a child, I realized that midway through those stereotypical performance characters, and then I would sleepwalk to the rest of the film. And those performances have been terrible. And I didn't want to do that because I felt I had so much more to offer. I have a voice that is powerful enough, and an amazing upbringing that I've had, an amazing set of role models that I look up to, with actors, directors, world leaders. So why is it that I need to be suppressed? So I had to make an active decision on my part. Take it slow, but play the roles that you really want to play. You don't have to be in 5 films every year, or even like 2 films every year. You can be in 1 film in 2 years, but you'll be so proud of playing that role because you said no. And I really had to find my own inner strength to take it slow.
We have a question at the front.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Silvia Pizzo from La Repubblica. We know how much it costs to make a film, to put a film together. I mean, the financing is a nightmare. We hear it all the time. And while I applaud, and I think it's wonderful that the idea that if once your films start making profit, you invest them in the fund, I'm wondering how is it going to be structured? How are you going to get those first financing, convincing people? People usually finance because they think they're going to get some money back. Now you need to convince them that it's a really good cause. And is that what's happening? And I assume all of you are, I'm not saying volunteering your work, but almost, or how will it work?
Well, this is a very interesting question. We had your same doubts, Silvia, ourselves too. I think that things have changed. Right now we live in the era of a sharing economy. Things have shifted. Right now we see that one of the richest men in the world, like Zuckerberg, young and hip, instead of buying yachts here and there, decided to create a foundation, give 99% of his money. Tom with the shoes does the same. We are living in the sharing economy. Movies needs to start to do sharing economy. How do we convince them? I think there is one great thing that it's happening worldwide. There is like almost, I don't like the word awakening, but there is an attention on women finally. So we almost like if we are reaching a critical mass, like everywhere around the world, even in the Arab world, where women wants to drive and do the YouTube video, or in Sweden where they're ahead of us, or in Italy, or in Argentina with the movement Ni Una Menos, or in Mexico Ni Una Más. I always don't know which one is which. But so I think right now partners are actually coming to us, I must say. which we were kind of shocked too, because we come from the idea that it's so tough. And if we are here, we're here thanks to some of our partners. And we decided to come here in Cannes probably a month and a half ago. And we're here. And so I think there is a different mentality right now. Branding agency are telling us that in 5 years from now, Mother is one of the branding agency in our board of advisory, told us that in 5 years from now, people won't buy product unless there is a good concept behind it, okay? True or not, we'll see. It's a bet. When you do something new, you never have, the result right away. I must say that right now, it's going very well. Let's see. I don't know, Caro, you might want to add something.
I agree it's going very well, but I just want to talk about something practical, which is that our organization in the States is a charitable organization. It's a 501c3, which we got in record time, which Chiara got in record time. And it's very important to say that in Europe, governments support their artists. I won't say that there's equality, is that an English word? Or anything close to it. But if someone wants to support this, they can do it with tax-deductible money in the States. In the States, we do not have anywhere near the kind of support. So, if there's an old saying, if God wants to give you $1 million, you've got to buy a lottery ticket. We want to be your lottery ticket, and there'll be a lot of opportunity for people and foundations to give us money, which is somewhat unprecedented. So when you say, where are you going to get the money, I strongly believe that there are going to be organizations, companies, as large as Facebook or who knows whatever, foundations of studios that will be able to give us money, and they'll be able to do it in a way they haven't been able to before.
We've got a question there.
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Alessandra Bergero. I'm a writer, filmmaker, but also film commissioner. I've been the first film commission founded in Italy, Italia Rivera Film Commission. I think we worked on Inkart together with New Line Cinema. And I would like to remind you that there are film commissions that can provide a very sustainable way of producing films. And so please, come by and contact us. Thank you for the idea. Very good.
Katia, I'd like to, you and Patrizia are in some very good company directing these segments. I mean, the words child in a sweet shop come to mind, really. Are you excited about what you're going to be doing?
I am, very much. As I was coming here, I was thinking back on the airplane on my own career, and I realized that my first film, my first short, the main character was a boy, 7 years old. He was supposed to be me, but he was a boy. And a lot of my work has been masculine. And I never really thought about it until I got blindsided when I was denied recognition for my work on City of God. And so I grew up thinking that the whole feminine issue had been resolved. I think my parents wanted us to have high self-esteem, so they just, raised us so we'd think we were the same as men, and I always thought it was the same as a man. And when I would watch films, I would instinctively identify with a male character because he was much more interesting. He was the protagonist. So I always wanted to play soccer, and I'd get pulled off the field by my ear, and told to play hopscotch, and things like that. And I just, until I was 13, I thought I was a boy. I would wear male clothes and all that, and from one day to the next, I turned into a girl. But I never really thought about the issue of why I was making my films about boys. Maybe that's what I thought I had to do in order to have a successful film, or to have people watch my films. After City of God, when there was a lot of controversy about why I was not getting credit for being the co-director of that film, I had to go through a depression